that this guy is now a grown man. He has to carry his own box. So I was made to carry my small box all the way down to Kenyatta Hall. And I came to Kenyatta Hall and I could see everyone. And I mean literally everyone in this school was bigger than me. And I knew for sure it was going to be a great ride. We were signed in, and I don't even remember much of what happened in Kenyatta Hall. But my great ride started when they said I am going to be taken to the dormitory, that I'm going to spend the night in and the rest of the year. So we walked up from Kenyatta Hall. There was no shortcut then. You had to go all the way back up. Then take a dusty road on your right, which used to curve around the fence. And before you knew it, it started revealing some mabati houses. And I now knew for sure this ride was going to be great. And I ended up in Cube 12 of Dome 6. Then it was called the Ngong Dome, but we knew it as Siberia. Well, you should be grateful that you never ended up spending a night in Siberia, because they called it Siberia for a good reason. Well, in January, we didn't have much of trouble in Siberia. But when June came, and then July came, that is when I knew my great ride in the great high school had started for real. Now, if you're staying in a Mabati dormitory, what it means is that at night, you have to be very careful how you turn. Because if you turn carelessly, your leg will touch the Mabati that is your wall, that is sweating from the inside. And it is not sweating from heat. It is sweating from water that is condensing. And if your leg touches that Mabati, you can be sure you will not sleep again. So I was not one of the lucky kids who had blue band. But in July, when you had your blue band in Siberia, you could not even scoop your blue band because it was frozen. But back then, if you're in Siberia and you're a Form 1, all things looked like they conspired against you. Because back then, in Form 1, we never wore trousers. So you would spend an extremely cold night in Siberia, wake up very early in the morning, wear your shorts, and go to the Form 1 class. I was in Form 1N. And in Form 1N, the wall began from here and ended here. The rest was ventilation. So you spend an entire night in the cold, but you do not get any reprieve when you go for morning prep. And you spend the entire day in that classroom. When you get back at night, there was something strange about this school and how it initiated the boys into this school. Back then, the Form 4s were very, very old. Extremely old, and I mean exactly that. These are men who had beards. Some of them we feared had wives at home. We were never sure. But these boys wanted all the comfort to themselves. So if you're a Form 1, you are never assured the comfort, because we had something they called nyamchom. Nyamchom was short for nyamachoma, and nyamachoma meant that you could easily go back to Siberia at night and find that your mattress has disappeared. So wewe ni usiku utalala kwa hiyo mesh, tulikuwa tunaita nyamchom. But now that was the end of the day. During the day, I will remember very well how my first lesson was. My first lesson was a math lesson. And you should be grateful for the teachers you have today. Because the teachers back then here in Ditchez were very serious about molding us from boys to men. So my first lesson was a math lesson that was conducted by a man who, by the time I was getting to class, I only knew him as Mr. Fox. We never got to know the name very well until he came to class and introduced himself as Mr. Geshohi. Now, I am so grateful for Mr. Geshohi because he inspired some greatness into us. But at that time, we never thought of it. Mr. Geshohi was this amazing short man who we called Mr. Fox, and we didn't like him very much. He had his wife, who was also teaching in Dagoretti High School, and we called her Foxess. You know, teachers, what you do not know is that these guys have nicknames for you that you do not ever get to know. So you can imagine, these boys had decided that Mr. Geshohi's wife was not even a vixen. She was a foxess. Now, Mr. Geshohi walked into class on this very warm January morning, which was my first lesson in Dagoretti High School. And Mr. Geshohi had been created special because he had a small squint. Mr. Wafula, you would remember. But the boys used to make a joke that Mr. Geshohi's squint was in such a way that when he was talking about you, he was looking at someone else and pointing at a third person because he had a small squint. So Mr. Geshohi walks into class and he said, "Good morning, class." And we all said, "Good morning. Today we are going to learn about circumference." And he asked, "What is circumference?" Now, back then, Dagoretti High School was the only provincial boarding school for boys. So we thought we were the brightest kids in this city. Because being the only provincial boarding school for boys, it meant that even some boys who did not make it to the national school ended up in this school. And because in provincial school there was never a quota system, it meant we never got additional boys who were not as clever as we thought we were. So we thought we were very smart. And we were wondering, this Mr. Geshohi is asking us about circumference. And we were the finest boys in KCPE. We qualified to come to the greatest provincial boarding school for boys. So we were only looking at him. I asked, "What is circumference?" And no one was responding. And he said, "It seems even English is a problem. Because I will tell you, circumference is mosuguko, mosuguko." And I was sitting there thinking that because life is too hard in this high school, I have to get something that will be entertaining me. And on day one, I decided that I shall be observing my teachers and I shall make entertainment out of my teachers. And believe me, entertainment I made out of my teachers. So, out of Mr. Geshohi's class, I started imitating my teachers when I was in Form 1. You can imagine I did not have a very good ride imitating my teachers. But we had something called the variety show. So on Saturday evenings, we would end up in Kenyatta Hall, and each boy who wanted to showcase their talent would come and showcase their talent. So I thought to myself, what I shall be doing is imitating my teachers. Little did I know that ultimately I would make a career out of comedy. So some of my previous teachers ended up seeing themselves on TV in a show called Ridiculous because I really used to imitate them. And I had all these raft of teachers that I used to imitate. But my most favorite were some teachers who used to be in this metalwork workshop here. And there were 3 of them. Mr. Geshohi was one of them. There was another one called Mr. Kahara, who suddenly passed on the other day.
And I remember eulogizing him just the other day because I had to go for his funeral. And another one was called Mr. Moshero. And these teachers made my life bearable, even though I thought they were making my life very hard. Because I would imitate them during the variety show and make everyone else laugh. Because I found them funny. These teachers were working in the metalwork workshop. And what we used to do is we used to make fun out of them by even setting up our fellow boys. So later on, by the time I was getting to Form 3, a young boy joined this high school. Probably you know him. His name is Waire. Waire is a musician. So Waire had joined the Dagoretti High School, and he looked meek, and he looked young, and he loved to sing. But we didn't know that yet. Then, in his first week, he wanted to get a leave pass. And the teacher who was on duty was Mr. Geshohi. So he came asking around, who is the teacher on duty? And everyone told him, Fox Yuko duty, Fox Yuko duty. So he went to the metal workshop and he said, excuse me, Mr. Fox. I can tell you, Waire did not even finish his sentence. The story is told that Mr. Geshohi summoned all the other teachers in the metalwork workshop. Mr. Moshero, look at this funny boy with a funny story. He's calling me a fox. Do I really look like a fox? You call me a fox, I'm going to behave as cunningly as one. He called for a boy and asked for a piece of wood. They used to call it the woodworker worker piece. Get me a worker piece. This boy is going to know today we are the 3 bad boys. We are going to give you 6 of our best. Now, I wanted to make such an introduction so that we know that out of whatever life throws at us, we can do the proverbial thing of making lemonade out of lemons. Because while I was having fun at Dagoretti High School, there were my peers who felt that they had been dumped in the worst school that they could ever be put in. They never liked our classrooms. They never liked our uniform. They never liked where we spent the night. They never liked our teachers. They never liked anything about this school. And they chose a path to hate what had been offered. For me, I chose a path of seeing the best out of this high school. And I can tell you that as I had thought on the very first day, the Dagoretti High School for me became a great ride. So in first form, I was just an average boy. But by second form, I had already started turning very left. And very left, I mean exactly that. Because by the time I was getting to Form 2, I was already becoming what they call an adolescent. And adolescents have their own many problems. Let me see the Form 2s in this class, in this place. Let me see the Form 2s. Let me tell you, this is the troublesome lot. Weka mkono juu nione vizuri. Form 2s. The Form 2s. You know they are no longer monos, but they are not yet seniors. They are just Form 2s. So I was in Form 2S, the notorious Form 2S. Form 2S was something else. So by the time I was getting to Form 2, I was already going very left. My academics were not looking very good. And then in April of that year, when we were in our holidays, I lost a brother who was like my twin brother. He was only 2 years older than me. And at Form 2, when you start burying your relatives, it can hit you really hard. So that holiday was actually very traumatizing because this young man had been my mentor. He was only 2 years old. But everything I did because of him. I had joined drama because he had shown me that drama was something good to do when I was in primary school. I joined debate because he used to debate. I used to try and perform very well because he was always top of his class. I used to draw because he was a very good artist and I liked copying him. And then all of a sudden, this young man commits suicide and leaves the world. And I was in shock. I couldn't believe that he had left me. And this really affected me. And my academics were showing. That very same year, I had an accident. And it was a bike accident. So I crashed with a bike and I crashed so bad that I broke my hand so bad that Wafula could not have me even in the drama club. And drama was my life. But I could not even dance that year. So I was going through what you would call a mild depression. So the guy you see in front of you today, who is the member of Parliament for Dagoretti South constituency, has ever been number last in his life. That year, for 2 consecutive terms, I was number last. And I mean exactly that, number last. So, in second term, I was number 45 out of 45. In third term, I was number 44, and it only so happened that David Kamonya did not do the exam that year. So I was practically number last. And I can tell you that December was a time for me to go and reflect. Because I was leaving Form 2, I was no longer a young child, and I had realized that I had a whole life ahead of me. And I realized that I cannot blame anyone. I cannot blame my parents. I cannot blame my teachers. I cannot blame my siblings. And I realized that this life actually belongs to me. I had to make very hard decisions. And my decisions were extremely practical. My deskmate was an amazing man who, under the tutelage of Wafula, had that year become the best actor in Nairobi province during the drama festivals. His name was Philemon Say. Philemon Say shared a book with me that changed my life. I will not give you the title because I want you to also go and search for something that would mean something to your life. But for me, the book he gave me had a principle that I took out when I was very young. I was going to Form 3 then. This book was talking about a principle called Kanai. Kanai is C-A-N-I. You can call it Kani. The writer calls it Kanai. The principle is the principle of constant and never-ending improvement. C-A-N-I, Kanai. Constant and never-ending improvement. So what the book challenges you, it challenges you that wake up today and challenge yourself to be better than how you were yesterday. And make it a life principle to always, constantly become better than you are. To constantly and never-endingly improve. Constant and never-ending improvement. This guy was God-sent. So I read this book. It was a bit too advanced for me that time because I was only a Form 2 going to Form 3. But I picked out this concept, constant and never-ending improvement. So I went back and called myself to a small meeting. Nikajiita kamkutano. Nikajiuliza, KJ, really, are you the guy to be number last in your class? And whatever your life becomes, whose problem will it be? Because it will not be your problems, it will not be the problem of your parents, it will not be your teacher's failures, it will not be your siblings' failure. If you fail, you will fail for yourself. If you succeed, you will succeed for yourself. And I decided there and then that I shall apply this principle of constant and never-ending improvement. And that holiday, I started working on very small things. I said, for starters, I'm going to change my handwriting. Just my handwriting. I had a very bad handwriting. Actually, really bad handwriting. Mbaya. Unajua ile mwalimu anakupea 2D kwa sababu hataki hata kuangalia hiyo paper. Anaona hiyo paper yani. I said I'll start with the very small things. That every morning I'll be waking up and I'll be doing a small duty for every small thing I take up. So wake up in the morning and I'll make my bed. But when I'm making my bed, I will make sure that I make my bed in a way that no one else can make the bed better. Just make my bed. If I polish my shoe, I'll make sure that I polish it in a way that no one else can polish it better than that. And I realized that when I start with the small things, even the bigger things start falling in place. But the smaller things have to be done right. So if you do small things right, the bigger things will take care of themselves. So I started looking for someone who has a good handwriting that I can copy. Hudson, you remember there was a young man here who was so impressive. He was called Hoi. His name was Joseph Mohoho. Hoi was in Form 3 when I was in Form 1. And he was my path out of Siberia, because when he went to Form 4, he was made a prefect. And when he was made a prefect, he moved me from Siberia to construct. So that room right there at the corner, that was my room when I was in Form 2 and Form 3. And Hoi had this amazing handwriting. And I said, I'll have a handwriting better than Hoi's. And I started practicing on my handwriting. And before I knew it, I realized it was a very simple thing to do, just to change your handwriting. And as I was changing my handwriting, I was also working harder on my studies. And before I knew it, my grades were improving. So what happened? I came back in January. Now I was in Form 3. And I want to tell you, the great guys of the present great high school, that first term in Form 3, I was celebrated on closing day as the most improved student in the school. I had moved from number last to number 6 in my class. And I swore to myself that I shall be top 5 for the rest of my time in Dagoretti High School. And I worked towards that. But what was impressive is that I realized that changing yourself is as easy. You can change yourself for any direction. If you want to change yourself to be a nasty character, it will take the same effort it would take for you to change yourself to be a good person. So the same effort you put to become a not so good person is the same effort you will put to become a good person. So at the same time, I really loved my extracurricular. And I really wanted to do drama all the way to Form 4. So the school had decided that you can only be in drama. And this was a call that was made by this very same Wafula. Wafula said he was not going to have stupid people in drama. But it's because he knew we really, really loved drama. So he challenged us that you have to have your academics right for you to be in drama. But I was not only wanting drama. I loved drawing. I loved debating. Mimi ni ule mse alikuwa nakataa kwenda midterm ndio nienda debate PB. Yani, that's how much I loved my extracurricular. I have a small story about debate and I will not digress. Please don't try this at home. So everyone went home for midterm and they left us the debate guys because we wanted to go for debate in Precious Blood. That year, Precious Blood ndio ilikuwa na mayengs man. Nilikuwa nataka kwenda sana hiyo PB. Then something very unfortunate happened. Because no teacher wanted to take us for drama during midterm, we had arranged with a teacher, a very young girl who was on teaching practice. And we said to her, please take us to drama, to debate in PB. And she agreed. But on the Saturday that we were supposed to go to PB for debate, this teacher did not show up. Just like any other teacher, because they didn't want to be there during midterm. Wasee wakapanga, kulikuwa na msee alikuwa anaitwa Ditchez. Ditchez alikuwa anaitwa Bitengo, Robert Bitengo. That time he was in Form 4, I was in Form 3. Tukachora kipindi. Ditchez alikuwa msee alikuwa na mandevu hivi. So tukaamua msee tukachora. So msee akaenda akaleta blazer haina ribbons na haina badge. Trao ya grey tukambadilisha akavaa trao ya black. Kashati ka white tu. Tukaenda PB. Tukaenda tukasema Ditchez ndio drama patron. And we were admitted. So what used to happen at that funky, it was very orderly. It used to be mna debate. After debate, there was something called refreshment. And then after refreshment, there was something called entertainment. And taa used to be kudance. Na tulikuwa napenda sana kudance na hao mademu. So Ditchez ameketi kwa ile meza ya mapatron pale. Debate vizuri, and we debated very well. Refreshments ikakam, we did our refreshments. Ikafika time ya enter. Enter, si mtu anakatika na demu yake. Kuna msee alikuwa na wish demu ya Ditchez. Akaenda akavuka na kademu ka Ditchez. Ditchez ana watch pale tu. Dance ika happen vizuri. Mpaka ikafika time ya blues. Blues ni noma. Ditchez ameketi pale anaona demo wake ana blue na msee mwingine. Aliamka akakuja kuwaka kademu kake. Sasa we niambie ile noma ilikuwa hapa Dago Monday. Ati mwalimu wa Dago wa debate amedance na kademu ka PB. We had to own up. We had to own up to the headmaster. But we only owned up after very many sticks. Tulikuwa tumewekelewa vile watu wekelewa. So anyway, I loved my extracurricular a lot. And so, what happened is, I realized if I have to do my extracurricular, I'll have to do extra work for my academics. So, as it always is in school, wasee waga hawaangaliani sana. So I'll rush the story to that very momentous time when everyone comes back to school. Siku hizo hakukuwa na technology. You used to come back to Dago and go to the notice board and check what results you got for your KCSE. So when guys came back after we malized from 4, and they saw that KJ had a B and he had qualified to go to university, no one was believing. Ayo si B ya squeezy. Squeezo, I think in my class, we didn't even have an A. We had a B plus, and then the second lot was us, the Bs, and then wengine. So when guys came and checked the results and they saw that we had an impressive B, guys did not believe. Because they had been seeing me, Interact Club, Debate Club, Drama Club. Wengine walikuwa nasema KJ already has his B for drama. Walikuwa najua yangu ni constant. Utapewa D yangu for drama. But what had happened is that I had decided, because I love my extracurriculum so much, I used to do something we call a trans night. So we would do classes, wase wanaenda sports, jioni tunaenda drama training, alafu usiku wase wanaenda preps. Tukishamaliza prep, kila mtu anaenda kulala. Lakini mimi na beshte yangu, mse fulani alikuwa anaitwa Morris Ochieng, leo mnamuita mdomo bagi, tulikuwa na disappear. By that time I had gone to that dormitory there, Dom Punch, Ambo. Yo Ambo inakuwaga na ile abolition block yake. Kulikuwaga na cube ya prefect ndani ya hiyo abo. Kila mtu akienda kulala, mimi na bagi tulikuwa tunaingia hiyo abo. And we would transnight ndani ya hiyo abo tukichop. Because we knew during the day to spend the day having fun, doing extracurricular, na hizo vitu zingine, lakini usiku tulikuwa tunahakikisha make up for lost time. Tulitransnight pale for very many long nights, and that's what guaranteed us the good grades that we got out of this high school. Now, in Form 4, before I left, I realized I had a talent for drawing. And I decided in April of my Form 4 year April holidays, nika decide kwenda Nation Center. And I went to Nation Center and I said to them, I walked into the newsroom and I said to them, I think I can draw cartoons for you. You need to employ me. Wale wase walikuwa newsroom walicheka. They just burst out laughing. Wakacheka sana. Wakaniambia, what makes you think that you can draw cartoons for the biggest newspaper in the country? Nikamwambia, I think I have a talent. Wakacheka na wakani dismiss. But there was someone seated at the corner of that newsroom. I remember her very well. Her name is Judy Mathenge. We used to call her Juma. Judy Mathenge eventually ended up happening to be Nameless's sister, David Mathenge. Judy Mathenge looked from the corner and said, there must be something about that Kayang boy. And they called me back. And they said to me, go and draw cartoons for 3 weeks. And if the people like them, we shall give you a gig. So I went home and I drew my best cartoons I could. And I started a column called The Head-On Collision with the Youth. Nikaichora na nikaipeleka Nation Center. True to my word, they put it up for 3 weeks. Everyone liked it and they hired me. So I had my first job. I was employed for my first job when I was still in Dagoretti High School as a cartoonist for the Sunday Nation. The point I was coming to is that you have in you the ability to multitask. You have the ability in you to not see a dichotomy between the sciences and the arts. You can love the sciences and excel in the sciences, and you can love the arts and excel in the arts. You can be an all-rounder. You can love your academics and love your extracurricular. You can excel in your extracurricular and you can excel in your academics. You can be a great footballer and still score good grades. You can be a great basketballer and still score very good grades. But if you choose to multitask, you will have to invest way more than the people who have taken the one track. There are people who choose one track and want to be good in academics, and they invest in that. There are people who take the extracurricular, choose a sport, and excel in that. If you choose both, it means you'll have to do